Welcome to Small Business Small Talk, a show that provides information, ideas, and encouraging entertainment to help you ride that business roller coaster and bring your big ideas to life. I am your host, Christy Smallwood, and I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of Small Business Small Talk. And today is your lucky day. I am here by myself in my brand new mini recording studio. Now, don't get all excited, everybody, because this thing doesn't look super fancy, although I did pick the blue foam because I wanted something colorful. But I turned my office closet into my very own sound booth. So I have the fancy microphone, I've got the recording equipment, the whole 9 yards, because I just wanted to level up at this point of my business and what I'm offering people so that you can actually hear me a little bit better. Not that you can't hear me because, I'm pretty loud as it is, but the quality of things should be able to come through at a whole different level. And I wanted to, with this particular episode, really talk about things that I've learned so far in 2020. Now, at the release of this episode, it's going to be, first part of September, and we are still dealing with the elephant in the room, which is COVID. And then we've also got other things that have just created this herd, this whole pack of coyotes, this wild herd of elephants. It's like every animal on the planet is stampeding at us right now. And that's what it feels like some days when we're having to deal with a global pandemic, isolation, social unrest and upheaval. It's gotten a little out of hand. But there's some serious things that I have learned and some fun things that I've learned throughout 2020. And so I wanted to bring that to you in this three-parter, this little mid-season three-part podcast, because I had a couple other episodes that I've launched as well. Hopefully you've listened to those or will listen to those. Okay, so here we go. Things that I've learned so far in 2020. Now, let me just kind of back up and apologize to everybody because at the beginning of the year, I decide on a word of the year that I like to apply as like a learning thing for the entire year. Like, this is going to be my focus word. All of my study, my personal development, my leveling up is going to be around this word. And so this year I picked thrive, THRIVE, thrive. And I don't know if you know much about agriculture or gardening or any of that kind of stuff, but for a plant to thrive, you have to cut off the dead stuff. You have to replant it. You have to make sure you're paying attention to the plant, that you are watering it, that it's getting plenty of sun or not as much sun as you might think. It just kind of depends. Like, you need to know what the plant needs to be able to thrive in the environment that you're putting it in. Yeah, there's a lot of learning lessons around this. So first of all, I apologize because words do have meaning, and my word has kind of ripple affected out. So with that, I say I apologize, but that's tongue in cheek. I really ain't sorry for it because I have loved it this year. One of the things that I realized very quickly in March, when we started seeing the effects of COVID here in the U.S., we had, I live in the state of Kentucky. And so our governor decided very quickly to shut the system down, basically. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. Wear your masks. Like, everything. Like, you were immediately, he came on the air every day at 5 o'clock. When I say every day, it has been since then every day. In the beginning, everybody was like, oh, Uncle Andy loves us so much. And I'm like, you guys, quit worshiping the failed system here. It's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And it has later on. So one of the first things that I realized in like that first month, because, everything got shut down. And when I say everything, it's pretty much, except unless you are a frontline worker, meaning security people such as police, fire, EMT. And here in Louisville, we also have Coast Guard because we have a river. So all of this in the military, frontline, as well as hospital workers, medical workers, things like that. If you were in distribution people, like the people who were keeping that chain of goods flowing through our economy. Those were considered frontline workers, which is awesome because they don't get near enough credit. So with that, though, we immediately felt the effect of not being able to go anywhere we want and do whatever we want to do. Like, we basically, as a country, got grounded. We really didn't at the time think we had done anything wrong, but you were grounded and sent to your room. And after a period of time, like about 6 weeks into this, because in the beginning, I was like, I got this. This is not a problem. I work from home all the time. I don't get out much anyway. Isolation's not a problem for me. I can readjust. I've got coping mechanisms. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I can handle this. 6 weeks into it, I realized there was one entire week, 7 full days, I did not even leave my domicile. I didn't go outside at all. That was not smart on my part. And it was an awful experience that I realized, just looking around. I was like, oh my gosh, this whole experience has triggered previous experiences in my life and is affecting me negatively. And when I say by that, it is that this whole situation became the effect of a toxic relationship where you're being isolated from your friends and family, separated from all of that. Like, you can only focus on the top priority, which was the thing, like the person, the narcissistic, controlling asshole person, which is also known as COVID now. So COVID puts you in isolation. There's also you can do nothing right. Like, anything that you do is not going to be the correct thing to do. You're always going to be wrong. You can go out and you can social distance, but if you're not wearing your mask and you're not washing your hands, that's wrong. If you go out and social distance and wear your mask and wash your hands, that's still wrong. Like, there's nothing that you can do that's going to be the right thing to do. Like, you're never going to get praised for doing something well. That is a toxic relationship. It also is a matter of you can't say anything. Like, you got nowhere to put all of these words. Now, mind you, social media, yes, but if you're trying to be a certain kind of person, like, you're aware you want to be a good person in the world, but everybody's got opinions, and because everybody's got one, just like assholes. Everybody's got one. So what do you do with that? If you're trying to be a decent person, you don't want to put that all out there on social media for all kinds of reasons. One, it's nobody's really going to listen. You're only trying to create a bandwagon. You're not helping your personal and professional development by putting something outrageously negative out there. It doesn't help the situation. So you can't say anything right at this point. And even if you're trying to be peaceful, that's not right either. And then you're forced to make changes that you really have zero time or energy or interest in. But you're forced into this situation of you have to change. You have to change. And I'm like, you can't tell me what to do. This is where I've grown over the years of having that attitude. Like, I thought it was bad when I was a teenager, and my mom sure could tell you. But over the years, like, that got chipped away, and I became this victim-minded person because of my relationships, and the environment in which I was in was not set up for me to thrive in. Well, now I'm in this my own environment in which I have created, and I like it. But now the world, quote unquote, proverbial world out there, is telling me I have to be something else and do other things and make these changes to fit in with them. Well, for those that know me, that doesn't go over very well. So that's one of the things that I've realized very quickly about what COVID has done to us as a society. And also looking back in the past history, like, how did they manage themselves in times of pandemics? This is not the first time we have been through any of this as a human species. It's historical. Like, it comes and goes as part of the natural rhythm of creation. So how did they handle it before? Well, I'm guessing they didn't have social media. So Even if somebody had an opinion about it, I think the communication etiquette of respecting somebody else was just there. Like, just keep your mouth shut. That's what you did. You just kept your mouth shut. And then you just followed the rules and got done with it. It was kind of that simple back in the day, is my understanding. But I didn't live back then. I'm living now. And so what I'm seeing now seems very crazy. But what the other thing that has happened in 2020, as we all know, I'm not telling you anything new at this point, but what we all know is that society has been angry for an extremely long time. Now, I'm going to say this, and not a one of you is going to like it. It's not Trump's fault. Now, caveat to that, disclaimer. Here's the thing. God love him, but it's not Trump's fault by himself. As the president of the country, everything is his fault because that's the president's responsibility. So it doesn't matter who it is. Even if I were president, it would be my fault. Like, it's my responsibility for everything. As the leader of the country, it would be my responsibility, my fault. So is he doing a good job at that? No, he's not. But here's the thing. What we as a society, as a mass of people, we've never given the president a break. I don't pick one. I don't care which one. Ever since I've started paying attention when I could vote, we've never been nice to a president ever. So I don't even know why anybody would want that job. But lately I'm like, I'll do it. I know I get the media off my ass really fast. Anyway, I digress because it takes a lot of money to become president. And I don't have that much money to do that. And I would like to be able to do other things that are good in the world. But it's not the president's fault that our society has been so angry for hundreds of years. It's just culminated to this point. And does he help the situation? No. Does he hurt the situation? Not really. Like, it wouldn't be any better if Obama was in, or if Bill Clinton was in, or George Bush. Pick one of the two. Even Reagan, I don't think, could handle this very well. So they didn't like him back then. Now they love him. So the presidential thing isn't like he's the scapegoat for everybody's responsibility. Like, how you show up in a day should be your responsibility, not the president. And that's my belief in life. Like, it's not anybody else's responsibility for my attitude, for my behavior, for anything. Like, I'm going to step back and look at the situation, but that's just me. I'm not going to blindly follow anybody into anything. And that's probably based on the experiences that I've had with toxic relationships. I've learned a lot over the years of what not to do. Now, I'm still susceptible to certain things because I am human, but politically, career-wise, not really, because I know that needs to be more of my focus. One of the things I have observed about the societal unrest is that without solid plans and people working for the same cause, we're not really going to get where people say they want to get to. When you have one type of message out there that's being looked at as if it's a diamond, multiple facets of one message, it gets construed. Like, you don't know which way to... It's shiny objects everywhere, and everybody gets distracted because there's not a center focal point. And I think that there's a lot wrong with the situation lately, but there's a lot that could be given potential to. So when I talk about civil unrest, there's more than just a racial divide. There's more than just a gender divide. There's more than just all of these things are layer upon layer of issues that we've had for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. Ask people in the Middle East. They've had problems with each other since creation. So this is not something that we can immediately fix overnight. When you bring your opinion to social media, it's not going to change anybody else. So understanding all of that, there's the society thing, the toxic relationship that is COVID, all of that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. And I am very, Fortunate and unfortunate. I don't have anybody here with me. When I say that, I don't have a husband. I'm not dating. I don't have children, and I don't even have pets. Now, the only living things, organisms besides me in the house is plants, and I've got some hummingbirds outside that visit me every morning. Like they own the place instead of me. But I don't have all of the extra. So there's issues that come along with being so alone in a situation by myself, because then I'm left to just my thoughts, which is not good in some days, and it hasn't been good. When I need to be able to reach out, though, I have a support system. So that whole thing of understanding what's been happening in society and trying to get myself to this word, this thrive, like how do I just chuck it in the bucket for the year and just start over next year? No, I'm going to reclaim this. I'm going to readjust somehow. I don't even know. So this is what prayer is for. Like I just went to the Lord and said, I can't do this on my own. I need help clearing the clutter that's in my own head. With that, it was like, okay, with everything that's going on, and back to the not having anybody here, I definitely feel for all of my mom friends out there, all of my parent friends who are trying to teach their kids at home and still have jobs, or building businesses, and sometimes multiple businesses with their children at home. If I were you, I'd be like, we're homeschooling and you're going to start learning this business now. They're your kids. There's no child labor laws in that. Don't worry about that. Anyway, probably in the 80s you could get away with that, when you had restaurants. And I used to, so side note, my mom used to work at Druthers back in the day. So we lived in the apartments behind the restaurant, and I would walk to the restaurant in the mornings with mom when she would open, and I would be able to put the tartar sauce in the little cups, put the lids on them. I never could do because they would use fresh potatoes and they'd put them in one of those cutters. I was never allowed to use that because, you could lose fingers over that thing. So, but I wanted to use that when I was little. It looked amazing. I still don't have one of those because I probably would still cut my fingers off. Anyway, just bring them up right. Like, teach them business at this point. Teach them what it's like to have the job. Teach them in the way they should go. But right now it's super stressful everywhere, trying to, manage life, get things done, and not have anything entertainment-wise like you used to. You can't do near as much as you used to. So we talk about business, though, when I'm refocusing back to this whole thrive thing. Oh my gosh, it was such a good eye-opener for me. I am part of my thrive goals for this year. My objectives is kind of like health-wise as well. I have one of those bodies that just does weird things. I think we all do. But I'm one of those that if I get stressed out or even think about something stressful, my body gains like 10 pounds, like overnight, and it's stupid. It's crazy. So I go to one of my friends. She is a DNA expert, your DNA detective. That's what she is. It's Denise Krebs. If you haven't listened to that podcast, you should go back and listen to that one. And it's just been fascinating how she's helping me figure out, okay, we got to get your happy hormones up. Like, being a female is hard enough with the hormonal thing. But you have like zero happy hormones going on. So let's do that. So my exercise regime, believe it or not, was watching comedy shows. Stand-up comedy. So I'm watching all of these comedy shows, laughing my gut off, almost literally. So this has been super surprising. But it also helps shift my mental state just by getting some laughs in, going outside more, being in tune with the breeze and the leaves and the birds and the air and the grass and the ground, like toes in the grass, like really getting in and grounding a little bit with the earth, plus laughing, just enjoying a moment, really helped change the trajectory of my thoughts, because I am in control of one thing, and that is me. I have to take full responsibility of myself. And therefore, if my thoughts are nasty, my behavior's nasty. And so are my words. So it all kind of works together. So when I had that moment, I've been able to reshift. Now what? Like, okay, back to the business part of things. What do I need to be doing? There's so much going on in the world. Do I need to get involved? Like, what am I supposed to do with any of that? So after some reviewing my own strategy for my business and my life, the answer is no. Like, it is not my battle out there. Do I support certain things? Sure. Am I going to be a vocal supporter? Am I going to put a ton of energy in that direction? No. Will I stand in the gap for somebody who's asked me to so that I can be a support? Basically, would I take a bullet for a friend? Yes. Would I stop to help that stranger along the road that needs help? Yes. Am I going to go down and protest with people? No. Because that's not where I want to put my energy. So where I want to put my energy is back to my strategic plan. This is how do I refocus on where I want to take my business, because I know if I focus on what my purpose is, how I'm supposed to show up in the world, what I'm supposed to do in the world to help better my world around me, then I know that will have its own ripple effect while other people are doing the exact same thing in their pond, like a protest, like, whatever else is out there for that stuff. So one of the first things that I did was, you have to get real with the situation, though. You have to acknowledge what is happening. So let's make no mistake. There's all kinds of crap going on everywhere. We've got a global pandemic that's causing us to have a lot of daily restrictions, especially for businesses who are trying to make it, that are closed. And some states still have them closed. Some states, like the event industry, for example, is not going to rebound anytime soon. It's going to take a while for, when you talk about event industry, that's anything that requires people to gather for entertainment purposes, whether it be sports or your festivals or your, even the movie theaters are barely getting open now in September. Corporate events, you've got nonprofit fundraising events, like the fun stuff you would normally go to, even basic networking events through the chambers. There's stuff like in Kentucky, we still don't do that. Indiana, yes, they've got some lifted restrictions, and it's just kind of the hit or miss. Like, you don't know what you're supposed to be allowed to do and what you're not. Just keeping up with what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do is its own stress in a day. There's that. Then there's the protesting. Then you've got militia groups. Then you've got sex trafficking. That's been around for eons as well. But now everybody's more aware of it. Like, what are you supposed to do about that? And then there's like thousands of nonprofits that just need our help every single day. We acknowledge what's going on. There's the NTI. So whenever you have to, it's the non-traditional education system. Like, how do you function digitally all the time? Well, you can't. It's not sustainable, because you got to live life in 3D, not on a flat screen. You can't. We could do it for a period of time, but it's not sustainable. We need people. We need that touchy-feely interaction. Even the most introvert out there still needs people every so often. So acknowledge that it's happening, but then is what is happening, is that really my thing? Is it my thing that I need to jump on that bandwagon? Because I don't know where that bandwagon's going, but I'm pretty darn sure it's taking me away from where I really want to go. And it's probably going to take me away from being the person I want to be. So if it's not my thing, if I don't feel called to it, if it's not part of fulfilling my purpose in the world, then the answer needs to be no. And not out of disrespect or lack of interest or no, it has nothing to do with my opinion about that thing. It has everything to do with, is it fulfilling the purpose that I'm here for? If the answer is no, then I'm not going to do it. And it's hard to get to that point Because if you don't know your purpose or what you're called to, or like, why are you doing what you're doing, then you yourself don't have that centering point. I've worked really hard to get to this place of a centering point, and I help others. This is one of the things that I do with my business through coaching, is I help others find that centering point so that they can say no when it's required. They say yes to the things that are pushing them or pulling them in that direction that they want to be, and saying no to everything else that holds them back. All right. So let's say that it is your thing. What, if anything, are you going to do? Now, for me, all of those things out in the world, not really my thing. So what do I do about it? Well, sure, I still have an opinion. But am I going to put my money behind it? Am I going to put my time behind it? Am I going to give my skills and talents behind it? What am I going to do about this thing? So you have to determine at what level are you going to get involved, because being interested and involved are two totally different things. And having an opinion is like that low scale of things. Like, you can have an opinion without being educated. If you start to get educated, then you can decide if you want to be involved. Being involved requires the time and effort and money and skills. Like, all of that becomes involved. That's the point that I'm not going to get to. I'm educated enough to know what's going on. Some things I have a slight interest with. We all have opinions about everything. But am I going to get involved? The answer is no. So, and if it's no, which is acceptable, then focus. Focus on your purpose. I had to focus back to, what is it going to take for me to thrive this year? What needs to stay? What needs to go? How do I, trim the leaves, if you will? How do I give myself what I need to get to that next level? And it became a review of my values and my belief set and the vision of what I really want for my business and my life. And is it matching up? Does it still hold true when I started this thing in the first place? And then how am I going to put all this stuff into action? What's the mission behind it? So, as part of my personal belief set, and I break this out for those that might be interested. I break it out into personal and then business. So I have a vision, and I started this with lifestyles. Like, what did I want? Because it's really hard to go, I want the vision of my life to be empowering others to be their best selves. Okay, well, that's just kind of not me and not my language. So it doesn't have to be. Use the language that is comfortable for you, because it's you. It's coming out of you. Use you. So I totally shifted this a little bit to, my vision is more about the lifestyle I want to live, not necessarily stuff I want to have. But listen, make no mistake, I do want a Jeep Wrangler at some point. So I'm just throwing that in the universe. And, I'd love that with a big bow on it and a big eagle on the front and the stars on the back. So I digress. And those of you who know me and are laughing at this point, it's true. So lifestyles. My vision for my personal life is living out these lifestyles of dedication and learning, imagination, service-driven, vitality, and luxury. The luxury that freedom gives me. Not the luxury of gold-plated everything, but the luxury that fighting for the freedom that I have provides, that I have control over the calendar in the day. I can manage my time. I get to go get groceries in the middle of the day if I want to. I get to do all of these things according to what I choose to do. That's luxury to me. So what do I need to be? So the value system that I have personally is truth, excellence, creativity, freedom, of course, achievement, the big deal, continuing development, obviously, spirituality, big deal for me, and have some fun while I'm at it. That is also a big value. I love to incorporate fun into all this so that it's retainable. Like, you want to do it. It means something. It's meaningful and it's fun. But what do I need to be? What kind of person do I need to be to have all this come about? Well, disciplined for one, creative, imaginative, bold, and focused. And that was the word I came back to when getting out of all of the COVID crazy, was how to focus back on this. So then my business vision, I applied my word of the year. I was like, aha, this is fantastic. So my internal, and I have this separated out, internal vision, external vision. My internal vision for my business is that I have a thriving family of clients, a thriving portfolio of services, a thriving support team, a thriving career for me, and thriving community involvement. Now, that looks a little different based on what I'm trying to accomplish through the business. Now, the external vision and my mission is together. So my mission, personal mission, is break the status quo of business as usual, bring order to chaos, clearing the clutter of stinking thinking, spark the inspiration of big ideas and audacious goals for entrepreneurs and leaders, and light a fire under your ass to make sure your big ideas come to life. That's my mission. Now, when I apply a little bit of mission and the vision together, it comes across as this. We break status quo, bring order to chaos, spark inspiration, and light fires of action to educate, engage, and empower business leaders all over the world. And I was like, oh, that feels good. You know, when you finally get to something that just sounds simple but feels good, that's what the statement to keep. And that's what I work with people to get them to that space for themselves as well. So if I believe that that's what I'm here to do, well, why not do it for myself as much as anything else? So when I work with others in this kind of a capacity, I love to see those light bulbs go off. When you reapply that back to yourself and you're like, well, hot dog, look at this. There's been so much once I started getting back to this, probably about June, I would say. End of June, I started getting back into this. And I was like, yeah, this is important. Because the whole month, the March is when shit hit the fan. April, everybody was scrambling on, okay, what are we going to do to settle into just trying to be productive and live a decent life? Well, we all were grasping at straws. Like, I put out so much content in April, and then May, I was just pooped. We need to pull back so I can do something different with my time. And then yet another wave of shit hits the fan. That June aspect with, social upheaval. Well, it finally got to a point I was like, that's it. I've had enough. We've got to circle back to this. And once I refocused, everything has been completely different. I've been staying in my lane, as we like to call it, just staying in my lane, doing my thing. But I've been super productive. My attitude has been so much better for myself and others. Like, I'm a emotionally stable person now. And I'm making faster decisions that are better for myself and my business. So if you were at that place, and that's the biggest things that I've learned this year is the word thrive means a lot. And I've learned a lot from it. What does it take to thrive in the midst of this chaos? And some of you may know I'm releasing a book soon called Being Super. And it's actually into Amazon for approval now. That book fuels this word thrive because the concept behind it of being called out and going on the quest and facing your battles and overcoming all of that, having these defining moments of bringing it all together and being victorious in this huge battle that you may have with yourself some days, and then learning to celebrate those moments, but then being equipped and ready and willing to do more continuing adventures. And that's what I want my life to look like, is being able to serve and be vital to my community and people around me and dedicated to this life of continuing adventures. Because as Helen Keller put it, life is a daring adventure or nothing. And if you don't know who Helen Keller was, the girl was born blind and deaf. So she didn't have a lot going for her back in the day. There wasn't just immediate medical things you could do for that. And if she was able to develop that amazing attitude, so can we. We can do this. And hopefully that you've stuck with me this long in this Small Business Small Talk podcast is like, what does this got to do anything with business? Because if you are a business leader at all and you're still listening to this, you control you. How you show up for your team, how you show up for your family, how you show up to the vision of the business. Like, how do you set the tone for everything? Well, you control you. How are you going to manage all of this stuff? And that's when taking the time to recenter yourself is a huge deal. Huge. If you need to take a couple days off and go to a lake and do that, you go right ahead. You have my permission, because I took off and went to the mountains for a while. Well, the Smokies. They're kind of sort of mountains. It's not the Grand Teton or anything, but it's still gorgeous sunsets, let me tell you. And it was peaceful, and it was a totally different environment for me to be able to think bigger and better for the next phase of growth. And I hope that you take the time and take that opportunity to do that for yourself. Let me know. Like, let's communicate. If you have found something in this particular episode that stuck for you, or you want to be able to go deeper with that, just reach out to me. Let's connect and let's talk further about it, like what you may have going on. Between here and there, I hope that you have found some value in these episodes. We're going to be launching season 2 here in the next month or so. So be on the lookout for the next set of seasons for Small Business Small Talk. We got some surprises for you, I'm sure, because I don't have everybody on the list yet. So we'll all be surprised. I know those of you who know me are still cracking up anyway. So I appreciate your time today very much. I hope that you have a very amazing, thriving day in your world. And I hope that, I hope that you find something good, encouraging, educational, entertaining somewhat with these Small Business Small Talk podcast episodes. I hope that you come back again. You can always ask Alexa to play the next episode. And I have been your host, Christy Smallwood. I am the owner of Eagle Eye Strategies based in Louisville, Kentucky. For now, anyway. Still in Kentucky. But if you have any questions, please reach out. Please, please, please. If you ever need a speaker, I'm available for that. So with that, I'm going on and on and on and on. I thank you for spending this much time with me, and I hope you have a fantastic day.